Let's talk about jobs. In this moment in time, there's probably no other subject that comes up more when we're talking about AI than jobs, as in, when are the robots going to take over our jobs? Not if, right? So we're joined today by Robin Daniels of Zensai. He's an expert at building high performance teams that go to market in the tech space. And Robin, thank you for joining us. And let's just start with this. I saw a sign over there, and it's been on bus stops here in San Francisco, and it says, "Stop hiring humans." And I know they're trying to be cute, and they've come under a great deal of fire, though, from the people who live here who are going, "Come on, man."
I know, I know. Honestly, when I see those signs, it really kind of pisses me off. This is not the side of history that I want to be on. I've spent my life and career trying to work at the edges of technology, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Box, Matterport, taking companies public, and trying to push the boundaries of what happens when we fuse technology with human capability in all kinds of different ways. And so when I see those signs, it kind of just really frustrates me. And when I saw, for example, last week, Oracle laying off 30,000 people, I just think something is broken in society. Because if you're a company that's sitting on mountains of cash, like Oracle is, and you can't take some of that cash and invest in retraining, reskilling, retooling your team, we've lost the plot a little bit. Like, so what if it impacts your bottom line? Why else are you sitting on all this money if you're not using it to protect and invest in your people? Yes, you might not see a return on investment in the next 6 months, maybe even 12 months, as they learn new skills, as they reorganize about different things, but I'd rather invest in people to fully unleash their capabilities. That's what they should have done. And so when I see signs like this, "Don't hire humans," that's not for me.
You say so what, but the so what are the investors, right? The investors are right now, as I'm walking around here at HumanX, I'm seeing that not only are investors asking, do you use AI? It's, to what degree are you using AI so that we can make more money, so that we can sell it? And I don't know, you tell me, but I also get the impression that maybe some of this AI isn't even mature enough yet to be using, but they're kind of forcing it, maybe rushing it to satisfy investors.
I think that's true. I mean, we're certainly in the very early days, I think, of AI. There's so much more to go. I'm both in awe of what it can do, and I use it all the time in my work life and even in my personal life. And there's many times it gets a lot of things wrong too. So I feel like there's still a lot to go. And you're seeing like just some amazing innovation happening here at HumanX, which is really fun. But based on my career in high tech and leading teams, I've become obsessed really with this question of how do you drive high performance at scale. And I think if you ask most CEOs, they want to do the same. If you ask most executives, they want to do the same. But the reason they don't invest enough in people is because they don't know exactly how to measure the impact of investment in people to the output they're going to get. And so they go back to doing what they've always done, which is chase profit at all costs, growth at all costs, right? And sometimes at the expense of humans. And so this company I'm at now, Sensei, I've been there about 3 years. What we have really set about to do is become the agentic AI platform that drives high performance teams. And it's really across 3 dimensions. One is, how do we ensure that people are learning the right skills in the right moment when they need it the most? I'll tell you a stat that always kind of stuck in my mind. I worked at LinkedIn for a while here in Silicon Valley. And this was in 2017, 2018, and so on. And we did a survey that said that within 5 years, 95% of your skills are outdated or irrelevant. And so you have to have a learning culture. And most learning in most companies kind of suck. It's like you're being forced to do it by your company, for compliance reasons. But unless you can turn that around and create a culture where people are excited to learn, but it has to be in the moment when I need it the most. Oh, I'm sitting working on this document or this presentation or this problem I'm facing. It has to be in the moment. So we're trying to solve that challenge. Give people the skills they need when they need it the most. That's number one. Number two is give people hyper clarity around the goals that they need to accomplish. What leads to subpar performance, what leads to toxic cultures, political environments, is when people don't have clarity around what they're trying to do and how their daily work marries up to those goals on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, either themselves or even their teams. So that leads to a lot of times not really sure what I'm trying to do. And I saw a stat recently that said 92% of people in companies are unclear of what their goals are. I mean, think about how frightening
That's
that
a
is.
huge number.
How are you going to do great work if you don't know what you're trying to achieve in the first
How
place?
will
right?
you be productive?
It's
How
how you-
are
it's-
you
exactly.
measuring productivity
And
if you
here
don't
we
know
can,
what you're doing?
I'm very bullish on AI can help you get that daily clarity, that daily nudge that you need towards the goals that matter the most. And then the final thing that's part of our platform is how do you create this human connection, this sense of belonging, this sense of being part of something bigger than yourself, being in it together. Very hard to put a measurement on this, but you know when you have it. We've all been in companies where that was that sense, and also when I didn't really feel like we were in it together. We weren't like really looking out for each other. But when you're part of those special cultures, people show up, they do better work than ever because they take pride in being part of something that's bigger than themselves. So fostering that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose, that sense of engagement is so important. The North Star, ultimately, that I'm trying to fight against is when I see these statistics from Gallup or McKinsey or HBR that says that 70-80% of people are disengaged from their work. And I think to myself, number one is, are these people showing up every day doing the best work of their life? I don't have the data, but I can nearly guarantee that's not true. In the moments you've like not been happy, have you done the best work of your life? Probably not.
At that
right?
point, what are we doing?
What are we doing? And the second thing, I'm a dreamer. I like to think of a positive, exciting future. I think if you're not happy in the work you're doing, if you're not finding joy and purpose in it, it'll also spill over into your personal life. You take that energy home to your family, to your kids, the way you lead, the way you, and like, so it just has this spillover. I want everyone to ultimately find purpose and joy in the work that they do every day. Knowing, of course, can I do that for every human on the planet? Probably not. But let's at least work on it.
Well, I appreciate you trying at least.
Thank you.
Hey, let me drag you back to,
Yeah.
you mentioned agentic AI.
Yes.
And so just to define for our viewers and listeners, we're talking about, like, we've talked about agents.
Yes.
We're talking about computers doing certain kinds of tasks. How does that fit into Zensai?
Yes, so basically the way we see, so we are this agentic layer, which means we're basically a platform that shows up where the user needs it the most, either reactively, so we show up in Teams or in Outlook or in Copilot, or when you're working on a PowerPoint presentation, trying to give you the nudge or the skills that you need to make it do a better job in that moment in time. But we can also use AI in a much more proactive way to go in and say, hey, I see you have a meeting coming up with this person. Here's some talking points. Here's some coaching that we can give you. You know, we see that in the last 3 months, this person has not been that engaged. The language they're using is so-and-so. Maybe there's some signals here that you as a manager can go in and actually have a conversation with this person about, like, how are you doing? What's going on? How can I help you? And what it ends up doing is fosters a much more like human environment where everyone is like in it together, working on the right things together and so on. So we use technology basically to proactively try to push people into becoming high performance teams. And we can do that because we have the data from thousands of companies who use our platform, millions of users. So we can see kind of the best practices, and we can use that to ultimately give a leader, a CEO or a CHRO, a chief people officer, or in any business leader, the insights and the actions that they need to take in order to drive better performance. So, hey, I run, for example, at Zensai, the product team, the marketing team, and the go-to-market team. And I can see, hey, the product team is doing really well. They're super engaged, but the marketing team is struggling a little bit here. They're not reaching their goals on a monthly basis. There's some little bit of like stuff going on between the collaboration between people. Here's some things that you should go and actually maybe try to solve. Here's where I should be spending my time. So we're trying to move from a platform that's only giving you advice, but also to take action. Action is really ultimately what counts most. So that's how our technology shows up for companies who use us. We have companies like Porsche and Audi or Dassault or Penske or all these kind of companies who are using us on a daily basis in order to drive this high performance in their organizations.
What I hear you saying is you are trying to help humans achieve their goals, and that you're setting humans up for success. And I appreciate that. And I don't, look, aside from the one sign we saw here, there's a lot of people trying to make sure that they're doing the right thing and that there's plenty of empathy to go around. But it is a part of the conversation that I would like to make sure is a high priority as we move forward. But and as such, you've written a book. And so, like, tell us about that.
Yeah, so trying to take everything I've learned over the last couple of decades, but also the last couple of years being with Zensai and all the conversations I've had with business leaders around how do you drive high performance teams? And of course, I can see what some of the customers that we have been doing with our platform and our technology, but also what we ourselves have been doing. So for example, we are a 200-person company. We've doubled in revenue in the last 2.5 years or so, but we've not added more headcount. We've used technology to scale ourselves. And at the same time, we've been recognized as a great place to work 3 years in a row by our employees and by the industry. So though we're not perfect, there's lots of things I think we could do better, but we're doing a lot of things right. And so we're trying to distill that into a book that we can, and teachings that we can share with other people so they can also drive that in their own organization. So I wrote a book along with two co-authors, our CEO, Rasmus, and our Chief Human Success Officer, Nina. And we call it the Human Success Playbook. And it's a leadership fable for the age of AI. And it's written as a narrative, because the honest truth is I find a lot of business books a little bit dry and a little bit lecturing. There's usually some good stuff in there, but they kind of repeat themselves over and over. So we've written this as a narrative because it's what every CEO, every business leader is facing today, the pressure from shareholders or investors. So the narrative is basically a CEO of a company is being asked by his board to cut half of the company and use AI to scale and become lean instead. And the CEO refuses and says, I believe there's a better way. Let's instead invest in our people, using AI as a superpower for our people. And we're going to reshape how our organization is set up, where we're going to reshape how people learn and use technology and collaborate and so on. But I'm going to prove to the board and our investors that we can do it. There's a better way. And so there's this tension in the narrative. And of course, it starts with this like abyss. It's kind of like the hero's journey. And then over time, you go through the highs and the lows.
It starts with a leader making a very brave decision
Exactly.
that may or may not be practical in a lot of
Well, he basically
applications.
says to the board, you can either fire me or you can give me, 6 months to try to solve this. But I'm not going to just cut people. It's too inhuman.
Can I assume that you think that needs to happen more often at some level?
I do.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the truth is a lot of executives are facing this choice. And when, again, coming back to the Oracle, it's probably the most well-known example. But we've seen it with Amazon and other companies when they're laying off people. And again, I totally get it. I've been in startups. If you're fighting for survival every day, sometimes you need to let people go. It's just the brutal truth of building a business. I've also been let go a few times. It's really hard, but it's natural. I think there's only really kind of two conditions that are okay to let people go. If you're fighting for survival because you have to do what's best for the majority of the company, or if people are not performing or being jerks and so on, then you should also let them go, but do so in a compassionate and human way. But if you're sitting on boatloads of cash and you have all this runway ahead of you, but you're only catering to shareholders and investors, I think you're doing the wrong thing. I just want to be very clear about it. I think you should take that money and invest in humans. One of my favorite entrepreneurs ever is Richard Branson, iconic business leader. And he also said it really well. He said, customers don't come first. Employees come first. If we invest in our employees, they will take care of our customers. And I think it's so short-sighted to let all these people go because the impact it's going to have is so significant to the loss of purpose and identity that these humans have, but also just the wider impact in society.
Absolutely. So bottom line, you hope that people here will read that and maybe it makes a difference. I mean, there is some humanity here at Human X.
There's a lot of humanity.
There is.
It's called Human X.
I know. I see it. I see those conversations taking place. But that is more of a business conversation. Can you stand up to your board? How do you stand up to your board? And maybe that's the takeaway, that there is a way. Like, you have permission to stand up sometimes.
But I think you hit on something really important. Let's be absolutely clear. Even though there are some that are trying to be controversial and saying don't hire humans, the majority of the leaders I've spoken to here are really on the side of humans and humanity. And the reason why I think it's so hard to stand up to your board is because you don't have the data on your side. If you ask most CEOs what matters most in your company, what do they all say? Our people. And I love that they say that. But because they don't know how to measure the impact of investing in people, training people, giving them purpose and joy and momentum, because they don't know how to measure the impact of that, because it feels a little squishy, they go back to doing what they've always done, which is just chase growth and profit at all costs. So what we're trying to do also in the book is give you the frameworks of how you measure the impact of this. Because until you can do so, you go to the board and say, hey, we lost. Usually talk about retention metrics, or we lost this person, or this is the NPS score in our company. 70% of people are happy. And what is the board supposed to do with that? How does that lead to better outcomes, better business growth, right?
Yeah, a board is looking at the bottom line,
They are.
and so you've got to convince them in a credible
exactly.
way that that's where your
part of the book,
heart
part of the
lies.
narrative is this trifecta that the CEO forms in the book, which is really the CFO has to be involved, the CHRO has to be involved, and the IT leader has to be involved, because it's the three of them. Because without them, if the CFO doesn't buy into it, it'll never take off with the board. And if the CHRO, of course, has to be the driving force behind investing in people, but the CIO or the CTO, whatever title you want to call it, is the one who actually has to make sure that people are using this every day, right? So this trifecta really is what makes this magic happen, gives it credibility. Yeah.
We keep hearing that, look, the future can be bright if you learn AI,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
that can sound a little bit off-putting to people, but look, just learn AI and maybe you'll be fine. But what's the truth? There are layoffs associated with AI, but I think there are a lot of layoffs that really, are they just kowtowing to Wall Street? I mean, some of these,
It's-
in the name of AI, may
yeah,
not
yeah.
really be AI related.
It's
And it's
true.
so hard for us out here in the public to kind of sort all of
I
that
think
out.
The truth is the narrative around layoffs is definitely around AI, because it's also something that gets investors fired up, Wall Street fired up, and so on. But the truth is there are probably a lot of jobs that could be automated. I mean, there are some that are fairly obvious, right? You know, answering tech support, you're answering the same question over and over again. You still need humans for some of that, but there's a lot of it that's repetitive work, right? Even in my field, go to market, I've spent most of my career in marketing. There's a lot of stuff that can be probably automated. Content creation is a great example of that, where, you know, instead of having a huge staff of writers, you maybe need one super writer who knows how to tweak AI and gives you back a first draft. The first draft is usually 70-80% there, but then you still have to have like some human touch on it, right? But you can automate a lot of that. Instead of taking a week to come up with 2 articles, maybe you can come up with 10 articles in a week instead, right? So yes, there's probably a lot of things that can just be automated with AI, and maybe should, yeah.
So, what's your message to the general public who are worried about jobs, who are hearing that, well, learn AI, but that's still, I mean, there's some people who are predicting a future of 4-day work weeks, and that we'll just have to kind of get used to the new norm. I mean, where do you fit in?
Great
all
question.
That?
I would say number one is I think AI will disrupt everything to do with hard skills, but not soft skills. So I would absolutely lean into the soft skills. Learn how to connect more, collaborate better, communicate better. It becomes a superpower that AI cannot touch anytime soon. Maybe in 30, 50 years, but this the ability to like get people to work well together, communicate and connect with people. It's still a very human quality.
AI can get things wrong a lot,
Yes.
but so very quickly.
Exactly.
So if you
Exactly.
had
And
somebody
very
who
confident
could-
about it, right?
and very
Yes.
confidently. But
But
also,
that-
what I hear you saying
yeah.
is they
Yeah.
don't have human judgment.
They don't have human judgment, human taste, human emotion. For I'll give you a very practical example. I was the CMO at a company called WeWork, very well documented, you know, around what went well and what didn't go so well. And I had a team of about 400 people. And so I had 2 senior vice presidents who were working directly for me that had large teams, and they were just going at it, these 2 leaders, and they just did not get along. And it had a tremendous effect on the teams that were working for him and the output that we were seeing, because they weren't collaborating well. So I put them in a room together, and after 2 hours of trying to hash this out, said, we're not leaving until we're actually collaborating and agreeing on like the way we're going to work together. And at the end of those 2 hours, both of them said, okay, yeah, we agree to work well together. And they shook hands, but they sat like this, they had frowny faces on, and I just said, we're not leaving until this energy changes, because I can see that even though you're saying the right things because you want to get out of this room, you're not agreeing. I'm like, what would AI do in this kind of case, right? You know, being able to like read a room, the tension, the emotions in a room, and so on, right?
Look in people's eyes. Use
Exactly.
more than the
Exactly.
senses that AI is capable of
Exactly.
using.
And then the second thing I would recommend to people is absolutely AI is a superpower, so you have to go learn how to use it. Figure out how it can help you in your daily life. You know, maybe it's getting better at using the food you have in your fridge, instead of going and buying new food. Like if you took a picture of your fridge, of the food inside your fridge, and say, hey, show me what I can make from these ingredients. It's a great use case, but it just making it a habit of using it every day to kind of like take some of the fear out of it, to show that it actually can be on your side, right? These small use cases that you can do that I think are really, really powerful. And then once you get comfortable with it, and then you can start using it more in work and more in like other things as well. But just start getting the habit of it becomes your best friend. It can be a superpower if you allow it to be.
One of my neighbors said that her ChatGPT is her best friend, and her husband said,
Yeah.
I thought I was your best friend. Robin Daniels, thank you very much for helping us. Maybe it eases some folks' minds that, yes, there's a lot of discussions about how to be human and humane and ethical about all these changes that are afoot. Thank you for watching and listening to Answering AI.